There's been a civil war in Aceh for over 30 years. The battle is over the rich gas and oil reserves in the country. Here, the tsunami took the lives of over 250,000 people.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
700,000 people are without shelter and dependent on international aid. But despite all this, peace is nowhere in sight. We're in northern Sumatra, on the border with Aceh. This is where the Asian tsunami wreaked the most havoc. Everybody coming from the disaster area is searched here.
Why are you searching the cars coming from Aceh? We're searching people and their cars for drugs. We're mainly looking for marijuana, and we're looking for weapons, like machine guns. That's why we're checking everyone, because there are many terrorists here. Even in this situation, you think terrorists are still active here? Yes, of course. The GAM is still here. That's why we're carrying out a large-scale search. Are you afraid the rebels will try to leave Aceh? Yes, of course.
Four weeks after the tsunami, we drive through the rebel territory. Despite a ceasefire declared by the Free Aceh Movement, or GAM, on the day the tsunami struck, the war continues. The Indonesian army has put up posts on the road. During the night, there's been gunfire between these troops and the GAM. The military guards control the aid convoys coming in from the provincial capital in northern Sumatra. The trucks carry food, clothes and medicine for the tsunami victims. The only road leading into the disaster area is closed off by the soldiers. Every civilian, male or female, is suspected of sympathizing with the GAM. But young men in particular are under the close scrutiny of the military. According to official estimates, the rebel army consists of just 1,500 armed fighters. But because of the constant sanctions of the military, many Achenese secretly root for the independence fighters. The Indonesian government wants no witness of this war. Foreign journalists are not at all welcome here, but still we managed to continue our journey. We approached the eastern coast of Aceh. Victims have had to build their own makeshift refugee camps. 4,500 traumatized people live in this camp, cramped together in a small space. One woman tells us that of her 5 children, only one has survived.
First there was the earthquake. We were quite shocked, and then before we knew it, the water came. The wave came so fast, so many people had no chance to run away. I just ran for my life.
Ada juga yang lari, ada juga yang tinggal tenggelam. Gelombang terus.
In this camp, we meet no international aid organization. Did aid even get to this region?
I've not heard anything about international aid. So far, we've been getting our food and drink from locals, from people around here.
The nurses at the local medical station do their best to prevent the outbreak of diseases. Just one doctor is here to take care of the entire camp. There is a shortage of basic supplies.
We urgently need outside help, and we need it soon. We are already out of antibiotics like amoxicillin. Also, pain relievers like diazepam are out of stock. Worst of all, we are short of medicine to treat the children. We have nothing to give them to treat their dangerous coughs. We're out of a lot of things.
Banyak yang sudah habis. Kemudian obat-obat batuk seperti untuk bayi ya, terutama anak-anak itu juga nggak ada kita.
The refugees have heard about the huge amount of support from all over the world in the media. They ask us to help them so that they too can receive some of that support.
I really can't understand why nothing has arrived here yet. I can't understand that we, who are so desperate, are not getting any help. The money must be going astray somewhere. All I know is we're not being helped to make a new start.
Sembako tu udah, cuma yang berupa duit tu belum ada.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Jaro dua belah tujuh malam.
Here, on the east coast of Aceh, the tsunami also had a devastating effect. The huge wave forced its way 3 kilometers inland. Volunteer helpers from the surrounding area are doing most of the tidying up work. None of the soldiers have picked up a shovel. We asked them what their purpose is here.
A lot of aid for tsunami victims passes through here. We have to guard it. Mainly we protect the aid for Aceh. It is not intended for the GAM. There are lots of people from the GAM who try to get hold of the aid shipments. Yes, there's a lot of fighting going on. Only yesterday there was gunfire on the road coming from Idil Riyadh.
The war has lasted 30 years. The rebels want an independent Aceh. The Indonesian government wants to keep the province with its valuable natural resources. They continue to fight the rebels regardless of the tsunami. Since the 26th of December, 200 GAM rebels have been shot in 57 clashes, according to the Indonesian government. There's no sign of a ceasefire on the ground. On the contrary, since the tsunami, the Indonesian military seems to be pursuing their fight against the rebels even more forcefully. Often, it's unclear whether their targets really are rebels of the GAM. These pictures are from the 23rd of January 2005, almost a month after the disaster. With more than 40,000 soldiers, the army by far outnumbers the rebels. Their task is also to protect the natural resources in the region. The American energy giant ExxonMobil has been extracting gas and oil in the region since 1976. The company has a turnover of $4 billion thanks to Aceh alone. $1 billion goes straight to the Indonesian government in Jakarta. The rest of the money ends up outside the country. The people of Aceh see none of that money. One of the reasons for conflict. Yusuf Paseh is a lawyer who is fighting a lawsuit against ExxonMobil in America. The accusation is that the company ordered the killing of farmers who refused to sell their land.
Of course ExxonMobil is denying that they paid Indonesian soldiers to kill people, but we all know that it is true. I myself opened a mass grave with 30 people. The Indonesian government is aware of the fact that ExxonMobil is not respecting human rights, but is only doing very little to protect us.
We drive to ExxonMobil to get a reaction. While we wait, we film from the outside. Immediately, soldiers turn up.
You just get the small one.
Have you been filming already?
No, not yet. No problem, no worries.
Stop it immediately. You are not allowed to film here. It's strictly forbidden. You need special permission.
Unfortunately, nobody is available for interview, but we are allowed to film a little from the outside. Scientists believe that earthquakes in this region are particularly destructive because the large-scale extraction of gas leaves huge cavities underground. Exxon itself has no information about this. The company wants nothing to do with the earthquake or the tsunami. Its airplanes were not used for aid flights, although they were stationed in the region. In the surrounding villages, people are afraid. Many get caught up in the crossfire of the GAM and the army. Under strict security precautions, we are led to a house where we meet the most recent civilian victims of the war.
My husband was a simple farmer. I have no idea why the army took him away. He had no walkie-talkie and he had no rifle, but they took him away anyway. One day he just disappeared from his field. I searched for him for 2 months, and then I found out that he was in prison. A few weeks ago they had just shot him. I'm alone now with 7 children.
Kena tembak lagi bulan 8. Waktu itu saya baru melahir 2 bulan. Melahirkan 2 bulan. Anak saya 7.
They asked me if I belonged to the GAM. I said, no, I don't. Then they beat me, and later they came and put me in prison. And again they asked me if I belonged to the GAM. I said no again, and they beat me again. That was at the beginning of this year. They held me for 12 days and tortured me.
GAM atau bukan? Saya jawab bukan. Dia pukul. Tanya lagi. Saya bilang bukan. Dipukul lagi.
The story of this young boy is no exception. It's testimony to this dirty war. We drive into the mountains to meet the GAM commander of eastern Aceh. After just 5 kilometers, the secret police stop us and force us to turn around. From now on, we are under constant observation. We make a phone call to the GAM commander, Kafrawi.
Hello, I'm Inga Altmaier from Germany. I was given your phone number. Am I speaking to Commander Kafrawi? What is your situation?
Apa situasi sekarang? Ada lagi kontak dengan TNI?
We are under constant attack. This morning at 8 o'clock we were attacked for the first time, then at 10, and then again at 3 in the afternoon.
Dan
Are you beleaguered?
sekarang atau tidak bisa? Ada semua TNI.
Yes, we are surrounded by Indonesian troops. Since the tsunami, the Indonesian army has launched a large offensive against us, although we declared a ceasefire.
Operasi ofensif dari TNI Polri terus meningkat selama pasca tsunami ini.
On the 17th of January, 5 men are arrested outside Aceh. They are identified as GAM rebels by their weapons and their emblems. Only 2 rifles were found with them. The rebel army is poorly equipped. The detainees are accused of having planned an attack on an international aid convoy. The men aren't allowed to speak, but their fearful expressions say enough. Physical abuse and intimidation are common police interrogation methods here. The weapons are presented as if they were evidence, but they're not. The accusation is based on vague assumptions.
These men had planned to capture aid convoys which are destined for tsunami victims in Aceh. The trucks came from Jakarta and passed through here. They wanted to attack them. We found out from recordings on their mobile phone mailbox.
Box yang dari Jakarta itu sudah menjadi target mereka. Mobil box mereka.
Commander Kafrawi says the GAM does not attack aid convoys. International aid organizations have not reported a single attack on one of their convoys by the GAM. All international aid missions can only be carried out under the observation of the military. If the aid agencies try to act on their own, their work is obstructed. Members of the aid organization Médecins Sans Frontières are being held in a luxury hotel in Lokswama in northern Aceh. For fear of further sanctions, They don't want to give us an interview. Even the doctors are being obstructed by the military. The refugees are the ones who lose out. They are entirely dependent on themselves. Only in the camps where the military rules do they get some of the aid. The soldiers determine where the aid is distributed. Even the aid organizations are not free. They must follow the army's instructions. The argument of the government is that the refugees must be protected against the rebels of the GAM. The operation, Aid for Aceh, is under military command. This mosque is an exception. Here, 100 kilometers east of the capital Banda Aceh, the Saudi Arabian businessman Abdullah Akbar is heading his own aid project. The devout Muslim wants to help his brothers. He's handing out $1 million in local currency. Each refugee gets 100,000 rupiah. That's $10. These people are desperate. They've lost everything. These victims have become beggars.
We don't want to give them food because we have seen a lot of food which others bringing is expired and maybe they don't need it or they have similar to it. And as clothes, maybe as you know that some of them they have brought some clothes from Europe which is woolen, and this is a hot country. They have no idea about what the people here needs. That's why we prefer to give them cash and let them do whatever they like. And we want to see them happy.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Jaro dua belah tujuh malam.
4 weeks after the disaster, 130,000 people are still missing. People clearing up are still finding dead bodies. At a mass grave, we meet Atkia Abu Bakr. He's looking for his 2 young daughters. Since the 17th of January, people have to pay $10 to the soldiers when they bring dead bodies to the mass grave. That's as much as the Saudi Sheikh is handing out. We accompany Atkia to the ruin of his house on the outskirts of Banda Aceh. 4 days he waited for help with his wife and his only surviving child, among the dead and the injured. These pictures remind him of the time before the tsunami and his missing children. We were doing okay in West Aceh before this disaster, he says.
Ini anak yang tua. Kuliah kerja nyata KKN di Aceh Barat. Aceh Barat yang kena tsunami ini.
Medical aid came, but it wasn't distributed here. Nobody came to us. We saw the Indonesian planes in the sky, and they saw us, but they didn't want to help us.
Atkia and his family had to help themselves out of the mess they were in. Now they hope that the Indonesian government might help them.
Ini masyarakat sudah lihat banyak pihak.
People have to understand that real help has to come from abroad.
Jadi Isu sudah melihat bahwasanya ada pihak dari luar asing yang ke Banda Aceh. Please, come here. Udah banyak di Aceh.
The capital, Banda Aceh, is overrun by international aid agencies. In the unaffected parts of Indonesia, there is enough food available on the market. But instead of buying food from Indonesians, a lot of food aid has been imported from abroad. The result is that the local market is falling apart. When food from abroad is distributed for free, the local economy suffers. Indonesian rice farmers are afraid of a long-term crisis ahead because the food from overseas is piling up in Aceh. The workers of the UN aid agencies have built up their own tent village in Aceh. As the representative body of the international community, the UN has to work with the Indonesian government because they are here upon their official invitation. Bettina Lucher is the spokesperson of the World Food Programme in Aceh.
I don't have anything. Wir sind ja im ständigen Kontakt mit der indonesischen Regierung und sie haben uns angeboten.
It is not very common for UN aid convoys to have military escorts. We don't really want that because it's important for us to be seen to be independent. But I can imagine we can come to a solution.
Es ist nicht sehr häufig, dass es militärische Eskorten für UN-Hilfstransporte gibt, weil wir eben doch Wert darauf legen, dass wir neutral angesehen werden. Aber ich könnte mir gut vorstellen, dass man eben da wirklich zu einer Lösung kommt.
A difficult task in a country at war. In most of the refugee camps, there is little international aid to be seen. There is still a shortage of clean water and accommodation. People are dependent on themselves. There is not even enough water to wash dishes. In war-torn Aceh, there was no Red Cross, nor were there any other partners of international aid agencies. The tents of the UNHCR had to be flown in from Copenhagen. In the whole of Banda Aceh, there is only one large tent, and that was only put up on the 15th of January.
It took a while, but the thing is that first we had to establish our operation here, our office, our logistics, our telecommunications, get staff in, staff members in, and the airlift and everything. Only from today we are actually operational, and this is the first tent we put up. We will put up at least 10,000 more, or actually 9,999 more.
UNHCR, the refugee programme of the UN, has so far been flying the tents to the completely destroyed west coast of Aceh, but nobody knows how many people survived there, or whether there are still refugees in the mountains. Helicopters deliver the tents to a military camp, but it is still completely unclear who is actually going to live in these tents. The distribution of rice is also being carried out at random. The American soldiers continue to operate here, although they don't know who really needs the food now. Again, we see no civilians receiving the aid. The Indonesian army has everything under their control. On the flight back, the helicopter lands on an American warship. A new crew comes on board. We are told to turn off our camera. To our surprise, weapons are being loaded onto the helicopter. American soldiers are meant to be unarmed here. We continue filming secretly. A possible explanation? The tsunami has caused many casualties among the Indonesian army, and some of their weapons have been lost. The next morning, all of these soldiers have rifles again. Of the 50,000 men who are stationed here, about 15,000 have been sent to oversee the humanitarian aid.
I have to listen whatever Major Endang Suarya say in the area of security, for example. So all the security information must be my consideration to deal with my operation.
All foreign soldiers are to leave Aceh by the 26th of March at the latest. By then, 700,000 homeless people are to be relocated to 7 different camps.
After the resettlement program has been accomplished, then the refugee has been settled in the camp, in the resettlement site. This will be okay because it will be very easy to us to register them. This is the very big problem. So we need, as soon as possible, the resettlement program must be conducted.
We head east again into rebel territory. The war is continuing here. The peace talks have failed. In the meantime, foreign journalists are not allowed in this region anymore. Here, the first large-scale refugee camps are being built under the supervision of the military. Lt Helmi heads the operation. Until recently, he was in charge of a military unit that was fighting the GAM. That is still very clear. All of his soldiers are behaving like they are still at war.
Dari unsur pemerintahan kita mendata masing-masing.
Every refugee who comes here is thoroughly checked. We work closely with the local government to ensure that everybody is identified. We also put up military posts around the camp. Our soldiers will guard the camp day and night and make sure that nobody enters it unauthorized.
Pos untuk keamanan. Setiap dari masing-masing angkatan ini menjaga malam maupun siang.
More than a third of the population of Aceh has come under the control of the Indonesian military since the tsunami.
Kalau untuk itu kita sedang rencanakan, Ibu ya, direncanakan.
As far as the separation of refugees is concerned, this is our plan. We will put up a barbed wire fence around the entire camp to separate the refugees from the civilian population. That's how we are planning the future in Aceh. We have to take care of the security of people.
The Achenese people are being fenced in without being asked. Nobody here wants to live in a huge camp for the next few years. The people of Aceh have not overcome the trauma of the tsunami, and already they are having their last bit of self-determination taken away. They are the victims of a brutal war which knows no mercy, even after the most devastating natural disaster of our time.
Mu'ahalul lake bakaum du